Hi, my name's Jackie.
And I'm Marion.
Welcome to Culture Corner, where you get real connections,
Real conversations,
and real community.
Stay tuned.
Today we are sitting here with our good friend Alan, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about the abortion laws and the bill specifically here in Utah, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We might be talking about all who knows what by the
Yeah, we
end.
just go. We see where it goes, right?
Yes.
So abortion law in the United States of America. When we founded this country, we took all of our laws from the old country. And whatever their laws were our laws. We progress, we move on, we move on, we move on. Now we're into the 19th century and people start thinking about abortion. Then we get into the 20th century, a lot more people start thinking about abortion because there's actually becoming safe ways that are not illegal to get an abortion.
Right.
So across the country, states started to pass abortion laws. And they started in the East Coast because that's where the more developed states were.
Right.
Anyways, we get up into somewhere in the mid 20th century, and I think it was the state of Connecticut had a law that put restrictions on contraceptions. It went to the Supreme Court. It was challenged, saying, why do you guys restrict a woman's ability to use, buy, and have contraceptive medicines? Goes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, I think the decision was called Griswold versus Connecticut. The Supreme Court said that women have a right to privacy. And what is more private to a woman than the regulation of her own body and what she puts inside her body?
Right.
And they said, so your contraceptive law is invalid. Okay. That served as the basis of the nationally famous, probably most famous case in America, Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
So Roe v. Wade comes around, I think it was 1973. At that time, it was a fairly liberal court. Thurgood Marshall was on it. Chief Justice, was it Blackham? Is that his name? He was on it. They write this opinion. And it was very interesting because it used that right to privacy language, but applied it to an abortion. And the right to privacy language, they said, came out of the First Amendment to the Constitution, that all people, and the Fourth Amendment a little bit, but everybody's got a right to privacy to their own bodies. So what they do inside their own body is their business.
Is this like pertaining to the HIPAA laws?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay.
But that's a threat
I'm
that
just
comes out of
wondering.
medicine.
Okay, sorry. Go
So
ahead.
it just says that a woman's got a right to privacy. However, we recognize that growing a baby in your stomach at a certain point becomes our interest as the state, as the government, because there is an expectation of life at some point during the development of the baby. And so they developed a 3-trimester structure, a legal structure that would be applied to abortion laws. And it's not good law, but it's good medicine. Because if you're going to draw a line somewhere, these lines tend to make sense. Because you got to draw a line somewhere.
Right.
Okay, where's the line?
Where's the line? Who gets to draw it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for a true democratic representation?
And then, at that point, of course, there were no women on the Supreme Court.
Of course not.
So they said, okay, the first trimester, when the baby is really developing, it looks like a little funny sea creature or nothing at all.
Right.
That first trimester, a woman has basically an unlimited right to control her own body. And she can do whatever she wants. If she wants an abortion the first trimester, she can have one.
Right.
The second trimester, the rules change a little bit. It says now the state has a limited interest in the life of the baby. But we also have an interest in the life of the mother too.
Right.
Because these two rights are now in direct competition with each other in some way, in a legal way.
Right.
Like, do we favor the right of the baby? Do we favor the right of the mother?
Right.
Let's try to balance it during the second trimester. Then the third trimester, when the baby really it's got arms and legs and hair and little nostrils, the state now has a compelling interest in the life of the baby. Because the baby could probably survive outside the womb if the baby were delivered right now.
And so then?
And so then they created a 3-trimester framework and said states...
So they create rights for that baby.
Well, the question is why does a concept have rights over
a human being?
A human being.
Yeah. That's a really deep question. And the deciders of that opinion, in my opinion, came down in a way that reflected most of the will of America. If you look at polling on abortion in America, and even in the state of Utah, so let's just use Utah.
Yeah.
Utah is one of the most conservative states in the
let's
union.
use Utah.
And 51% of the people in the state of Utah, according to Pew, support a ban on abortion. 47% don't. So what I'm saying is, that's basically 50-50.
Yeah.
We are divided in
Yeah.
this country.
We're going to fundraise and coordinate efforts to make sure that they stay open. We are prepared. This is one of the most.
We
Well, in
are
the state.
divided.
Wait, is this country or just Utah?
In the country as a
In the
whole.
country.
For sure. It's
And
similar.
in the state in particular.
Okay.
But
Right.
my point is, in a really conservative state, 47% of the people say, no, abortion should be legal and safe.
Yeah, yeah.
47%
Yeah, that's
in the
crazy.
state of Utah.
It's people don't have enough understanding about the process, not from any aspect, because it's a thing nobody likes to really talk about. But Jackie and I are going to talk about it.
Well, it's hard to talk about, and it brings up issues of gender, brings up issues of life, of freedom, and the role of government. And I've always said that abortion is the best political issue in the world because it is the one that forces you to deal with the intersection of two compelling interests. The interests of a growing human being in
Right.
here, a little creature, with if you open up the building and took him out right now, the baby could live.
Yeah.
Okay, that interest versus the interest of a fully grown and developed woman. How do we manage that?
Yeah.
Should we manage it?
Whew. Well, I think from
I believe there has to be some sort of managing because
I
of-
think the people who manage it need to be the people who
Correct.
are understand
Need to be
it
the right people.
and have the
which I
the
mean
life-
obviously are women. If we're honest, like come on, let's just say that
let's
right off the gate.
let's
like
call the elephant out of
you
the
men
room.
don't know
Okay,
what
so
the
who-
fuck you're
yeah.
talking about.
Who
I mean,
makes
I
all
know
these
you'd like
laws?
to.
They're-
I know you'd
yeah.
like to pretend
It's
that
not
you do, but it's just
threatening.
not.
A feminine energy and the gift women, however you want to see it, were given as a bridge with means to continue our own evolution as a species. I think we could jot down some notes about how we could improve maternal care around the country,
For
how
sure.
we could educate our children on how to deal with their emotions, how to understand what their bodies are doing, not for one night, during one semester.
Yeah.
Okay, people.
That's
I think
insane. Well,
yeah.
parents, can we take some initiative
Yeah,
here? Like, come on.
can we kiss and hug and
That's
and,
like the
and
first
fondle and in ways that demonstrate healthy human activity? Because I think the media also plays an enormous part in how divided we are because we're fed with conflicting messages first and foremost.
Hey, no punching. You want me to call the cops? All right, just stop. Calm down.
Jesus died on the cross for brown people, for sex workers. We have it. We get abortion. You have it wrong. That's not why Jesus died on the cross. Stay here. We want you to stay here. Hang out with us. Hang out with us.
Let's go somewhere else.
Hang out with us. They don't want you. You're the one that's not. No. 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 Body, my body. We'll do this together.
Point is knowing what family life is like. You would then say, I want to be able to choose that experience. And if heaven forbid I found myself in a situation where I wasn't equipped as a person to care for another life, and only I know that, only I know that. So then you're sitting with yourself and going, well, why is this a problem? And then you have a conscious dialogue about this is a problem because, and then fill in the blank. Having a conversation with someone who understands the situation that you're in and that you don't risk going to prison or jail or I feel like a human right. Because
sure.
God, if you believe in universe, however you want to call it, gave women this vessel with which to bleed and experience all these tremendous sensations in the body, which can be very pleasant and also incredibly uncomfortable. No one would fully choose to go through with a procedure that's going to have them feel shame, have them feel regret, have them feel, and then on top of it.
Well, it's already hard enough, yeah. But where you were talking about it, where they had to come up with okay, now this baby is viable outside of you, there has to be some sort of responsibility there, I think, in my opinion, that at a certain make the decision. If you're really a parent at this point, which you chose that when you had sex, and if the option became open that you could get pregnant unless you're doing otherwise, even with contraception, which all my babies are birth control babies, so cool, but still, you have to be able to caretake and make that decision at an appropriate time. I believe once the baby is viable, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, once you
are
find
you
out,
kidding me? Get your shit together way before that point.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're literally one of the people that's don't know you're pregnant for 6 months, which I know happens.
Or you're
and there's always
or your
an
health is
understanding, but I think-
compromised.
Yeah, exactly. Anything.
Which
I
is
mean, there's
where
so many
you'll
things.
tell that story about how Utah's laws are affecting women now,
Yeah.
based on what
Yeah,
you
so
said
tell
back
us
with
the
Roe v.
laws.
Wade,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then all the states made their abortion laws,
Yeah.
and Utah's was
Yeah, a trigger law.
A trigger law.
So
Wait, a what?
it's called a trigger law.
Okay.
So we're under Roe v. Wade in this country,
Right.
And we're cruising along. And Trump gets elected president, and he gets the chance to appoint. Did he appoint 3 people? Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Right? Is that her name? The woman. He
Yeah.
appointed 3. So he appoints 3 conservative justices. So the nature of the court has now shifted to the conservative side.
Right.
And so conservative people who are lawmakers around the country started looking at each other and are saying, Roe v. Wade might get overturned someday. Now, this court is in control. So in anticipation of that, let's pass a law that says if Roe v. Wade ever gets overturned, this is our law, and it will automatically take effect. Instead of waiting for Roe v. Wade to pass, then deliberating, figuring out
Wait a
the
second, I
law.
have
People
a
are
question.
saying-
Yeah.
Is Utah the only state that did that?
No.
How many states
Other
did
red
that?
states did it.
Oh, did they?
was a
I-
plan.
I would
The
be
red plan.
interested to know. Yeah.
the
Yeah,
red plan
it
with
was,
the red flag.
the red-
Who are you? What side are you on?
Yeah, it was working. Yeah, it was organized.
Ooh.
So Utah passed
Whoa.
2
I wonder
trigger
why
laws.
he's so passionate about it. Fundamentally, why do
I'm sure that saved his life a few times. Just saying. Sorry.
Kinda
I
like
mean, the
Herschel
control
Walker?
over
Yeah,
it.
I'm like,
I just
ridiculous.
don't understand why people who don't know anything about it want control over it. I mean, that's a fundamental billion-dollar question.
Yeah, and this is it's a tricky thing to talk about because a lot of people misunderstand when I talk about this one subject. Roe v. Wade wasn't really good law.
Yeah.
It's kind of shitty law because it's based on something that is really hard to find in the Constitution, a right to privacy. Nowhere does the Constitution say, and behold, everybody shall also have a right to privacy. It doesn't say that. It's kind of like implied. So why did they use that
That.
when they could have used
Something else, something-
better?
Yeah.
And do you know what the something better is?
Yes. Tell us.
It's something better that RBG, early in her career, talked about. She was the famous, cute little
Yeah, I love
Supreme
her.
Court
I love her.
Justice,
Yeah.
Bader
Bader
Ginsburg,
Ginsburg,
one of
yeah.
your people. She's wonderful.
She's one of your people.
Hey,
I love that she
come on,
said this.
come on.
So
Oh God.
there's this also thing in the Constitution, 14th Amendment, called the Equal Protection Clause.
Okay.
And it says that as a country and as states, you're not allowed to pass a law unless everyone gets equal protection from that law. Okay?
Oh,
So we can't pass a law that says
I see how they're.
you're
where they're
not
gonna use
allowed
that.
to punch a blonde-haired boy on the playground, but you can punch brunette-haired boys on the playground. That's unfair. Equal
Yeah.
protection.
Right.
Right.
Everybody should be
Okay.
treated the same.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. The argument is this. Instead of using the right to privacy,
Oh my
you
gosh.
can pass an abortion law as long as it applies equally to men and women. Now, try to conceive of what that law would look like. What does that law look like?
Oh.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
ridiculous.
It's like pitting, wow, people have to make these decisions together.
No, but how can you make it equal when men are different than
No,
women?
I understand,
and
but
it's
the
impossible.
solution has to be part of this.
Well, this is where it comes
problem
in. This
is a
is
part
where
of the
the
solution.
men have to come in and stand up
True.
and realize, hey, portal women bringing life onto this earth.
Every
we
time
need
I-
to stand up for you because we are not like you. There has to be a respect there or some sort of an awakening that they have to know that they would never know what it was like to be a woman.
If they didn't have a nurturing role model and understand the fundamentals of care, then perhaps their minds would be more open. But I think a lot of people are dealing with a distrust, and for whatever reason. And we don't have the representation for women to be able to say.
But how would you equal it between men and women?
You couldn't.
I don't think you really can.
That's-
but
that's what
this
I'm
is-
saying. You
That's what
can't.
you're saying.
Yeah.
So you get the joke. The joke
Yeah.
is like, okay, if you can't pass a law that applies equally, then you don't get to pass the law.
Okay, but
Gotcha.
can you use something, with women's rights? Like, does that like any laws in that
I mean,
area that you could bring in?
Sure,
and
that's a
then-
fair point. And off the top
Right?
of my head, I'm not.
No, I
thinking of
know,
anything,
not
but-
that you know, but I'm just saying. I'm sure we can
Yeah,
find it
so
somewhere,
think of-
right?
Think of in
Like, can we take
Can
some
we
sort of a
create-
basis of like what women's suffrage that went on? Can we use something from then? That gave women.
Can we have new conversations?
Yeah, like
So it
Can
does
we have
create
updated
a whole new
software?
dialogue.
Yeah.
Would be the dialogue. Okay, we do want to pass a law that prevents women from having an abortion. Okay, the other way to phrase that is we're forcing women to carry a baby they don't want to carry. Okay, now you're talking about force. What is the equivalent for the man? Okay, the woman's pregnant for 9 months. Okay, in exchange, the woman's pregnant for 9 months. Men have to go to jail for 9 months. That's fair. I don't know if that's fair.
No,
I'm just
definitely
saying,
not.
But I'm saying there's got to
I'd
be.
rather go to
You don't
jail
want
for
people
9
to be-
months. If
You
I'm
don't want
honest.
people to be punished.
We
Yeah.
just want what law could ever be equal.
You
and
can't.
I'm like, you can't really do it because
is
we're
a
Go
just-
work. You have to volunteer 6 months at a new baby ward.
Oh my gosh. There's nothing that could compare to it ever.
No, I know.
would rather do 9 months in jail.
Yeah,
Seriously.
Okay, see, so it makes it hard. We can't find an equal way. So in other
Yeah.
words, the way
It's
to
about
really handle this
education.
is just to leave it to people to decide for themselves.
I think we
Right.
need
So
new
why
conversations.
Yeah, there
and
needs to be a
leadership.
way to have an individual, like each individual person.
We
gets
need
to.
to.
One eternity later.
I just want to know where the law stands in this state
Okay.
right now with that trigger thing you were
Okay,
talking
yeah,
about.
we did.
okay?
We kind of got sidetracked.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, go back to the trigger
Okay,
thing,
so we were
trigger law,
talking
because I've
about-
never
Back on
even
the
heard
path.
about this trigger law
We were-
situation.
Okay, we
You
were
wanna hear
talking
about
about Roe v. Wade. It's
Right.
in existence.
They know it's gonna collapse, so they do these trigger.
They know it's going to fall down. They think it's going to fall down.
Yeah.
But other people are like, no, it'll never fall
Well,
down.
obviously they
That
knew,
happens.
otherwise they wouldn't do the trigger.
So
true.
a bunch of states passed the trigger law, and Utah passed
Oh
two,
my God!
just
like
to be
rumors,
sure.
like a ripple effect.
So Utah passed trigger law number 1 was HB 136, passed by a woman named Cheryl Acton, who lives on the west side of Salt Lake County, and it said simply, any abortion after 18 weeks is illegal. Okay. Then that wasn't good enough. So then,
Good enough in what do you mean?
well, the people that
Didn't like it.
Gotcha.
trigger laws, like let's do one better, and they came up with more of a life begins at conception. There's no abortion unless you meet one of these circumstances,
Okay.
rape or incest, and you got to prove it by a note from the police. Okay, rape, incest, note from the police.
Police.
Number two.
You.
Number two.
I'm dying.
Oh
You,
my God.
The baby has to have a brain defect that is not this or that. They say it's not Down syndrome, it's not spina bifida, it's got to have a different congenital brain defect that is so serious
That's
the
fatal.
baby will die.
Right.
And then number 3 if the woman's health is so compromised, she might die.
And what's
No-brainer.
that? What falls under that?
No-brainer.
Okay, so what falls under that? A woman comes in and she's just cascading blood.
Okay.
She's bleeding out. She's 4 months pregnant and she is bleeding out. And if we don't abort, extract the fetus,
She's gonna, yeah.
she's gonna die.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
that's pretty
That's
much
basically
Interesting.
it.
So let's just say you get cholecystitis of pregnancy and you're having liver failure and it's not, you know what I mean, or all these, you know, things that
See,
can
where
be
were
cause
you when we
fatal.
passed this law?
Because I had it. That's why I know.
See?
Yeah, like I'm just like, wait a second.
Ectopic
Where
pregnancy.
Is that counts obviously?
So this is
Interesting.
where
Because it's like, how do you know where you are on the health? Like, sorry, I'm pretty sure I could die right
I feel
now.
like the privacy needs to go a step further for advocating for women's rights, and that maybe we provide midwives with every tool they can possibly be equipped with, because what I know of it is hard out there.
Or
in
maybe
this
there's a way
state.
for us to work in create a women's rights law that can then we can it can
How
transfer
can
over
we
to like an
represent
abortion.
our people without being lawyers or
that's
like we're
that's-
busy moms and we
okay.
have a business we're creating and we have plans.
I can give you the bullshit answer, which is start forming a group and doing political activism. You
No.
can
What's
try
the quickest
that.
way for us to get to where we want to go?
The quickest way is, and probably the only way, is we actually have to change the culture of the people around us and what they believe.
Well, guess what?
That's what we're doing
So-
over here at Culture Corner.
I actually do not think political activism is going to move the dial in this state at all.
We need
It's
a
already-
cultural shift.
There's already
Yeah.
people doing that work.
Yeah.
There's Planned
Right,
Parenthood that are
right.
up there every
That's
day
true.
fighting.
I know.
And there's activists
right.
and there's people. There's people that do
So
that.
one
Okay,
of
but
one of
can we
the
get
ways
new
that we do that
baselines?
is creating
we need
education.
To raise the bar. Well, you're a very influential and prominent person in our community based on your foundational knowledge of both the main religion of the state and also the way the government works. And from what I know from you in a personal relationship, you have a lot of potential to teach a lot of people about a lot of things that matter here in this state.
Yeah.
And it would be so cool if we could sieve it and elevate your comrades. I'll call them that. It feels appropriate. Daruski, привет!
Comrades. my God.
Elevate your comrades for being an advocate for absolutely changing our laws where women's maternal health is concerned. Like a new branch of the hospital.
Under this new law, we've realized that we are in a situation that is sketchy for the people who provide maternal fetal medicine. And their patients are women who want to have babies. They're not looking to get out of a pregnancy. They're wanting to keep their baby. Growing their family, first child, third child, doesn't matter. But
Right.
I want this baby, but something's going really wrong. Maternal fetal medicine doctor comes in, does an examination, is like, I got bad news. Like, really bad news.
Yeah, but
You could be dead.
yeah.
You could be, and maybe not even dead, but what could likely happen is your uterus is probably going to get destroyed and you won't be able to have any more babies.
Yeah.
So they got to do this abortion. Now, that is not a threat to her life necessarily. So is that legal? To do an extraction when it's not going to kill her, but unless we do this extraction, she'll never be able to use her uterus again. So the law doesn't allow good medicine now. And there's a big space between a grave problem and death. The legislature wants us to wait until she's almost dead. That's stupid. Where medicine works is the space between death and we know there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, doctors jump in, they do their stuff that they're trained to do.
Exactly.
They do it well, and again, it has nothing to do with elective abortion. It's just trying to provide health care to a woman.
Yeah.
Basic health care.
How can
Exactly.
anyone set a bar or meter at a thing that's so intimate and vulnerable?
Yeah, it's
Well,
really... this is
Everybody's
where-
biology is different too. Like, how do you
Well,
actually
and also the
put
people
a
who are providing this
background?
service are
Yeah.
put in such a position where they got involved in this to help people.
Yeah.
And
True.
if they can't be guided, if they can't be trusted with that privacy, it's got to go the other way too. It's got to go the other way, where doctors are get to make calls with their patients from a spiritual, from a physical, from a mindful aspect, and maybe that person who would electively choose to have an
Or like,
abortion
what about
can get
if someone, is pregnant,
need
and then
support.
all of a sudden their mental health, they want to fucking
Exactly.
and I mean their mental health is deteriorating.
That's
they're going to die. Like if they're going to take their
they're
own
gonna
life,
feel
like,
resent.
there has to be
can't be
there- it
financially
there-
supported.
Like the laws, I mean the
Fight and
things
flight your
around
whole
black
life.
and white. It's just like
It's just
you
so
can't.
personal. So why
Yeah.
don't we get that level of privacy where
We
and
get
we
to
have the
make our personal
practitioners
decision.
that have the capability of servicing our human bodies as human needs within a structure, a political conversation and argument.
Right.
Like it's actually can we just do the thing that we need? Can we make that like
Can we, Alan?
we-
Can you
so.
just
I
let
think
us?
so.
Who's in charge here?
Who's in charge here?
Who's in charge here?
So what do you think besides what you're saying, which is
We have to change the culture.
we have to change the culture. But what are ways that we change the culture?
Yeah.
What are ways that we do how do we create awareness
Start a
and
rumor?
education around changing
Yeah.
the cultures here?
So cultures do change.
Yeah.
They just take time.
Sure.
And they take influencers within the culture to lead and guide people.
Sure.
And sometimes it's just blocking and tackling on a one-on-one basis. I've got a next door neighbor. He's really got some bad views. But over the next 3 or 4 years, I'm going to work on this guy.
Yeah.
And let's see where he is.
Sure.
And you know what? It can happen.
Absolutely.
3 or 4 years of conversations.
Of
and
course.
experience.
Whoa!
And next thing you know,
Drip, drip, drip,
Yeah.
drip, drip.
It's just
Next thing you know, the sink is full.
another person is there to support and help you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the frustration with politics is people come in and they see something they don't like. Oh, we've got to change this. How do we change this? We've got to change our leaders. Okay, pump the brakes.
Relax.
Relax.
This takes patience.
It just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
It really doesn't. You've got to be patient. And look at where this state came from. This is a very conservative state with conservative people that fought the government, fled thousands of miles, established their own village, their own kingdom. And now they're making the rules.
Killed a bunch of Aboriginal people.
They did some of that. But what do we do now?
Yeah.
Well, we live together and we're all one. We're all the same thing.
Right.
We just think differently. And there's certain things that if we can help each other, we can help each other see the light and come to light. But it is a cultural thing.
A
Yeah.
home is a culture. You have your home
Yes.
culture.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
go to a
That's
new home.
that's the
and
first
you're
place
like,
to
"Whoa."
change it is at
Right.
home.
Yes.
The education, teaching
And, what,
your
and,
kids.
and recognizing
Well,
what your home
I feel
was.
like sharing your experiences, like, you know, like
Yeah.
if you come in and I have a story where I'm like, okay, well, guess what? I tried like hell not to have kids, and it just still happened anyways with all the precautions taken. Like it's, you know what I mean? And then I'm
Still-
stuck, and then I'm 17 years old. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just like, what the fuck else could I possibly do? Which at that time, because of my programming, I didn't believe in abortion, so I didn't get an abortion.
Yeah.
But after raising 2 boys on my own as a single mother in Sonoma County, like that changed real quick. You know what I mean? Because then at what place is it you just keep having kids and now it becomes child abuse because you aren't capable of taking care of these kids.
It takes a village
Like,
to raise a child.
Child abuse. So that's but we got laws around that. But you know that's not okay. But guess
You're
what?
damned if you
pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies,
and you're
create
damned if you don't. Isn't
Child
that
abuse.
interesting?
Yes.
Well, it creates child abuse, and there's
It does.
the
Neglect,
strong
emotional
exactly,
neglect.
Everything.
You
It's
might be getting the car
So you're-
pulled done.
you're fighting
You might
on this
be,
end.
You might be feeding the lunches. You might be checking all the boxes on a physical level. But if you're
but
not
they're not.
connecting-
Otherwise, we wouldn't have
Exactly.
such a problem with
Exactly.
you know children. I mean, it's an epidemic
It's an epidemic.
of
The
child
facts.
abuse and neglect and all those things.
It
Well,
is.
that comes from not having the choice,
Support or
even with all the
resources.
precautions taken, everything. Like it just is like. So to me, it's like, where do we draw the line here? We just go ahead. Yep, everyone just. Who's gonna take care of the kids? Are you gonna fucking take care of the kids? Because, I mean, I can only do so much.
Yeah.
Here, you know, like each individual can only do so much.
From a
So
spiritual perspective, abortion, life and death, my experience in ayahuasca taught me tremendously about abortion and my choices to have abortions in my life. And I grew up in Canada, so it's an extremely maternal health care, woman's choice.
Fuck yeah, Canada.
Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it.
We wanna
They
be like
legalized
you.
mushrooms. I mean, come on.
come on,
But
That's
Canada
stuff.
knows that its basis is immigrant population. So you're like serving the community that comes to you. But my point about abortion is that from a spiritual standpoint, when you're in a space where you're intentionally trying to understand the purpose of it and why it might be necessary or who's in charge here, you go, this experience was given to you for a reason, and it's about being more mindful, and there is no sin, there's no such thing, and God entrusted you with this experience to have, and you are the one dialoguing, carrying the baby, feeling your nipples become tender the first few weeks. All these things start to happen to your body where you're like being possessed, okay? It's not easy.
Post-parasite situation.
It's not easy. It's beautiful, but it's not easy. So like to not be elective of your own needs as a human individual robs us of a primordial need for connection to ourselves. And if you have half the population where her body is not respected on a fundamental level in what we see in society and politics, and then we go, oh, the whole system doesn't work. The fundamentals aren't working. From a spiritual standpoint,
right.
God is entrusted, universe is entrusted female bodies with uteruses. However you want to technologicize it, that's how it all got started. You're not going to erase biology with new technology. Sorry. So from a spiritual standpoint, my experience with abortion was that I had one at the very beginning of my relationship with my man. And I was definitely swayed to consider abortion, even though I loved this person, even though I thought, even if we do this, think
you were
it'll
swayed meaning swayed by others or swayed in your internal
I'll tell
battle?
you that someone I had a lot of influence in my life, weighed their opinion, and it definitely affected my ability to logic things out for my own self.
For me, but yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
That's why I was wondering. I was like, was this a you thing, or were you feeling the pressures that every single woman who probably ever has had to have this situation, and also if they shared it with anyone, has to deal with, like
100%.
Yeah.
But guess what is so great about my experience with ayahuasca and having clarity about the situation was that I had an abortion, and then I got pregnant a few months later with my first son, Sebastian. Fast forward to having a psychedelic ceremony with ayahuasca the first night, and I am understanding what needed to happen in order for me to be the woman that I am today. Fast forward again, I'm in an ayahuasca ceremony with my maestra, and she's singing a song, and suddenly I'm feeling, seeing, envisioning, not with mind, but with just pure awareness in heart space, in sacred earth energy, the reason why I couldn't have possibly had my daughter Radnaya back in the beginning. I needed to be a certain kind of woman to be a mother to a girl in this day and age. I had her at a geriatric 38 years old, but her spirit in a ceremony is literally telling me, hey girl, don't worry about that. I'm coming back for you. If you want me, I'm coming for you.
Yeah,
sure enough, I knew, okay, this is happening.
Yeah, but how do you explain that spiritual, experience
you have to
when you're lawmaking and making law, right? For sure,
you have to believe.
Change the narrative. How do we do it? And you're saying, your neighbor for 3 or 4 years, which yes, obviously that's good. So then, in a way, kind of the protesters are helping in a way, right? Because they're creating awareness around it at least, right? But also, like, there has to be more. That we have to do more. Then there has to be more of those 3. I mean, of course, I always have mine. So. Does that mean more women like us need to come out and tell our stories and be talking to every person that, the people that we meet, where we're changing their perceptions on why it should be an individual?
What if we hosted an event
decision
for people who make these decisions, and we have a welcome to our culture corner, and we would love to be able to get stuff done and huggles and be like, oh my God, we're gonna change the way people feel about our state. We're gonna open minds. We're gonna really feel compassion for something that they don't have awareness over, and it's gonna be easy, and no one's gonna be mad about it.
There's 2 examples of major political issues that shifted dramatically in my lifetime, which a lot of people prior to the shift was like, that'll never happen.
Oh, do tell.
So one of them was gay marriage. People forget this, but when Obama ran for his first term, he said, no gay marriage. When he ran for his second term, he said, I don't like gay marriage, but I'll support civil unions. That was Obama, one of the most beloved presidents we've had, right?
He changed his mind about it.
Yeah.
After he was gone.
Oh.
My point is, the
was
giant
influencing
shift
him?
all of a sudden happened in this country after. And it wasn't the political leaders who changed their minds, it was the people. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the hell happened.
Well,
but it just happened.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you know, the court says, okay, we can have gay marriage. And all these people started getting married. All of a sudden, there was big, broad acceptance of it. And overnight, you are a pariah if you say you're opposed to gay marriage. Mm-hmm. Like, even conservative people don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever. Two people want to get married.
Live and let live. Can
How
we get that way
different-
about our bodies?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's 15 years transition.
Oh.
That's less than a 15-year transition, I think.
Yeah.
So think about that for a second. Okay, the second major shift has been the shift on cannabis. And this whole
there's no
country
coincidence.
was against cannabis.
Oh my God, I know.
Colorado came a
So
little
weird.
early, and everyone was like, "What
California.
the hell is wrong
But
with
why?
California? What's wrong?" Or Colorado, and then California, Washington came in, and then boom, 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 and
Yep.
then the
It's
whole
all about who's
thing,
influencing.
the whole thing collapsed.
So you have to
And
ask.
in the state of Utah, we have a legal medical cannabis program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing.
So-
we just had
Utah
Canna here last week.
Dan from Utah Canna, and that's what he does.
There's a story, and I don't know if it's even true, and I'm not going to tell it right, but it's a good story. You guys need to look it up.
I love it.
But I think it's called the 100 Monkeys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you heard this?
No.
Okay,
I
so I'm
know.
going to try to tell it. So on a beach somewhere, there's 100 monkeys.
Okay.
No, there's thousands of monkeys. I'm
Okay.
sorry. There's thousands of monkeys. And they're running around doing monkey things, and they're eating their monkey food. And a guy decides, I'm going to teach monkey how to clean his apple. So he teaches one monkey how to
Wait,
clean
so
his
now
apple.
there's a guy on the beach with all the monkeys.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and he teaches the monkey how to clean his apple. And the monkey's like, oh, this apple tastes better. It's not muddy. It's really yummy. And so that monkey teaches another monkey.
Right.
And then this goes on and on until 100 monkeys have done it. And once 100 monkeys have done it, overnight,
All the rest of
the
them.
whole freaking island of thousands of monkeys
Yeah.
Right.
clean their apples.
Right. Okay. I love
So-
this story.
The theory
You
is
told it so good.
cannabis and gay marriage, it happened there.
Yeah.
Why couldn't it happen?
It has
in
to.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
The right of a woman to have autonomy
It's
over
happening.
her own body.
Yes.
Let's do
Can
this
happen.
thing.
It can happen. And then when I mentioned at the very beginning, the state of Utah, conservative state, 47% of people want Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
We need
That's
an
how close
updated
we are.
version.
Yeah. We're
Do
almost
we
there.
need to have a case in order to create a new law, or can we just have can we raise our standards?
You could have a case, but what the Supreme Court has allowed every state to do is pass their own law.
Perfect.
And so all the blue states have very open laws. If you want an abortion right now, an elective abortion, drive to Colorado, drive to Nevada.
Yeah.
That's
where
the option for
Where
women.
it's completely booked out.
Can
for
we
months
pick a
and
new
months and
color
months.
for our state? Can we pick?
It's gonna be
can
a
we
long
pick
time.
Purple?
Saffron?
Purple.
Because we need to spice
I really
things
like
up a
saffron.
bit.
I'll
You
take
know,
it.
I say
No.
things are going to take a long time, but then I contradict myself by telling the story of 100 monkeys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the cannabis
exactly.
and
It's a ripple
the gay
effect.
marriage.
It
The point
seemed
is,
like forever with both of those.
it seemed like forever
Especially
until
being
it
from
wasn't.
California, which is obviously
So
one of the
true.
most
People are resourceful.
We do everything first.
That's
there,
the thing.
which is
That's the thing.
lovely.
People are very resourceful. So abortion, if you make something go away,
But-
you're just you're
haven't banned
inviting
anything.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
inviting new technology, new growth,
New problems.
new
Thousands of them.
That's true too.
All you've done is
All you have to do is
really
care about
inconvenienced poor people.
Yes,
The
exactly.
rich people, no big deal.
Yeah.
They'll get a ticket, they'll fly to another state.
Let's also correct poor,
Which
and
poor
rich.
also, like
Yeah.
with a lot of these unplanned births or whatever, I mean, how many of those people are rich? Because they're usually from the ages of 16 to 25.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
they're
They
not
have
being
to learn the
supported.
like.
No, they're young.
And then
They
they're
don't-
They're
stuck.
young. They don't have money.
They don't have the opportunity.
and
They
some
have to
of them-
suffer a lot more.
So we just want to make these young kids just
Even the
suffer
playing field.
with no education around
I think
it.
doing
like,
that one thing, passing one law that says women have the right, fill in the blanks, that feels good to everybody, would change our world.
No, I think. I mean, the 100 monkeys is a good thing. Do you think that all of the transplants that are coming into Utah right now will help with this
Ooh.
shift? Because that's what I'm thinking.
100%.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Everyone
So,
from-
so the culture is going to change.
Yeah.
It's going to evolve. People are going to open their eyes. They're going to start hanging out at the culture corner, learning from you too. and they're going to start changing the way they think about some of these things.
Yeah.
They're going to start understanding, you know what, I personally don't like abortion, but why should my will be imposed on that person over there?
What do I really think about it? How do I really feel about it? Do I know what it's like? Do I know anyone that's had
live
one?
and let live?
Yeah, so it's,
We have to empower.
this is how we change.
Empowerment.
Yeah.
And safety, because it's my belief that once we figure out how to give people the humanity and dignity that they deserve, we can tackle actual problems.
Yeah.
Let's figure basic things out, like how everyone in the world, or at least in this very rich country, can feel like they have healthy food to choose from, that they have support from the community, that they have access to have their traditions be nourished, and that's funded maybe by the government, just to, give back. I don't know. I forget where I was
So
going
what are
with
you
that.
doing now that you are what are you doing I know maybe to make changes in whatever ways? What are those things?
So right now I'm working with state lawmakers to make changes to the law that I think can pass this conservative legislature. So you don't come in and say, I want you to go back to where the law was.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
Right.
But there are changes we can make. And it deals with that space that we talked about in a woman's health. Why do we need a law that says a woman needs to be near death before we intervene? That makes no sense. That's not medically prudent.
Yeah.
And if you talk
That's
to...
not even how the whole medical, we try to,
Absolutely.
stop it at first sight, right?
Yeah. So, and there's
Why would
probably
she
not...
deserve that?
There's not a family in this state that hasn't had something happen to themselves or an extended family member where pregnancy's gone bad and medical intervention has happened and they've had to do a termination.
Right.
Now, they'll never use the word abortion, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a loaded word.
Yeah.
But they've had their uterus evacuated as a medical emergency.
DNC, whatever it is, yeah.
That's happened to a lot of people. We have a lot of babies.
Yeah.
And these moms that have had 4, 5, 6 kids, somewhere along the line, they probably had a problem. So there is some empathy there already. We just need to make the lawmakers see the need to apply empathy in this law that you've passed that went a little bit too far. Can we just dial it back a little?
Right.
I can give you a perfect
So it's just like
example.
amendment.
Yes.
You're trying to make an
Yes.
amendment to the law that's in their
Yes.
trigger
An
law
amendment.
that's in
That'll
place.
do.
And it's the simple way to think of it
They're
is this.
amending everything.
Okay, don't hurt yourself.
If you are not an elective abortion provider, but you provide maternal fetal medicine to women, let that person use their best medical judgment on the patients who come through the door. Just that. Just that.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
seems
great start.
obvious.
So should they really, whoa, hold on, you're not near death. Let's put you over there on that table. We'll wait for you to be near death and then I can do something.
Do you want to hear something crazy? My mother aborted me, and I lived through her abortion, and I was born on April Fool's Day.
Yeah, you didn't know this, Alan?
Did you not know this about me?
The abortion obviously didn't take very long.
No,
neither
it
did
did
mine.
not. God had plans for me.
Yep.
You were born on
True
April
story.
Fools?
Yes,
Yes.
I was.
I can't believe
Yes,
you
I
don't know.
am. I'm a fool for love. You hear
I'm a
I
fool
hear
for
the
love,
song.
she
I
says.
hear the word "fool" in the songs, and I'm like, ha 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 ha.
It's for me. I'm like, I want to know more things. I have so many questions. Do you know, like, the best places for people to get education around all this? Like, are there, like, places that they can find just this information? Is that something we need to do?
Oh yeah.
Is that something we need to put
Oh,
up?
yeah.
I don't have any answers on that.
No? Okay. If
I would assume
just kidding.
Planned
I'm sure-
Parenthood
Planned
resources,
Parenthood.
I know
website.
Planned Parenthood
Maybe.
is amazing, and Linda, she's
Yeah.
volunteers with them every week, and they're great. But we need more than just Planned
Maybe
Parenthood.
we need to make like
Yeah.
a tapestry
You know what I mean?
of women helping women in the medical
Well, just even like
field.
a number to call that you can get all the resources available to you
Yeah.
without being in fear of going to prison or whatever
Good
the
point.
fuck is going on. You know what I mean?
And I guess
Risking litigation.
I also don't want, I know I kind of poo-pooed the idea of advocacy because it's like there's already advocates.
No,
out
I
there
know,
working.
I know.
But, like, can I tell you one thing
Yeah.
about advocacy?
Yeah.
there is a time when advocacy is like magic. And years ago, I was working for the insurance industry to fight a piece of legislation that would have expanded medical coverage to autism kids. And I'm not saying I felt good about this, but I was like, your job is to keep our premiums low, and to keep our premiums low, you've got to fight this mandate, a government mandate saying, insurance companies, you have to give care to kids with autism. So I went to my buddies in the legislature, very powerful buddies, like the highest ranking guys. I said, you got to back me on this. Let's kill this bill. And they're like, oh, we're going to kill it. We're pro-business.
Kill Bill.
We're going to kill the bill. And so we're going down the road. We're killing the bill. I got all the votes lined up, all the support. And then I get a phone call. And the Speaker of the House calls me. And he's like, I need to talk to you now. I'm like, oh, crap. I run into his office. And he's still dabbing his eyes. I'm out. I tap out. I'm switching sides. I'm like, what? What are you doing to me? Why are you switching sides? And then he proceeds to tell me a story. A constituent shows up with her autistic child. She was a lovely woman, very articulate. She comes in, sits down in his office, and by the time she left, he was bawling.
Yeah.
He was just,
Oh my God.
he's just screaming down.
Yeah, well,
he reversed.
being personally affected will change some
He
minds.
reversed
Affected.
on the advocacy of one gifted person with their child who she probably had great examples and the struggle this is and how miserable this is. You've got to help me.
He changed his point of view.
He changed his point of view.
Yeah,
The bill passed.
perceptions can be changed.
I love that.
That's
That's my favorite thing.
That's when I call up a client. I'm like,
Righteous
hey,
indignation.
this happened, and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of righteous indignation in politics, in the government?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's got to go.
The key, though,
It's got to go.
the key about, and this applies to both sides. It
Yeah.
applies to the left and the right, and it applies to anything we think passionately about any issue.
Right.
Avoid self-righteousness. When we I'm on the right side of this issue. I can't
that's
believe
ridiculous.
that guy's over there. Ugh.
Yeah,
He's
it's
such
not
an
the way.
idiot. He's such a monster.
Ah.
Actually, he's not an idiot, and he's not a monster.
Right.
He's
Different
just
point of
lived
view.
a different life than
Yeah.
you.
It's all.
It's all it is.
He's grown up a
Why are
different
we-
way than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get to know him. Figure out.
I love that attitude.
No
That's how it
self-righteousness.
has to be.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, you have to be open to all the perceptions and see all.
but that's why
the
then
ways of
the
seeing life, 'cause
democracy-
everyone is exactly. Everyone
It's
doesn't
not a
look the same.
democracy though, so that's the problem with it. Is it's claiming to be, and we're paying good taxes and all that, but it's not a democracy because there are people who are not being heard about fundamental, basic things. We can look to Canada for one thing. We
let's
can
look
look to
to Canada.
Scandinavia for another. Let's upgrade the system and see who's really influencing our choices. Because if it's for greed or control, that's no good. Can we believe in something new? I don't know why I went on that tangent. I had a very good, Soviet Union. My parents are from they were from the former Soviet Union. And my mother said that in her day, abortions were a form of birth control.
Yeah.
And so you have that perspective, that you have people who don't have access to contraception. Then what happens? Then they have to rely on other means because human instinct is the driving force before our choices.
I wrote these numbers down. In 1990, the number of abortions in Utah, 4,700. 1990. In 2019, 2,900. The rate of abortions are going down.
Interesting.
And that's interesting, right?
So
What it
with
tells
consciousness,
me, there's better sex ed.
Yeah, the
there's
education.
better
That's why it's
prevention.
like creating the education around it and
People are
telling our kids
becoming
at home
self-aware.
that, hey, listen, you make these choices. You might have to do this thing that's like really hard, and you might not even be able to do it here in the state. You might have to fly to Colorado.
And the 20-somethings are on Instagram living their best life, having experiences. Guess what? It's going to be You can do it with a baby if you want to.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier if you don't. But you know what I mean? It's in the culture of having more experiences.
I wonder. So that's 2019.
Yes, and keep in mind the population from 1990 to 2019. That's a big growth.
Yes.
But abortions have gone down, which shows that. First of all, even people who support abortion rights, they don't want people to have abortions
Of course.
because that's the thing that happens. That's that's the ambulance at the
That's
bottom
literally
of the cliff.
exactly. That's the
Instead of
last resort.
guardrail
That's
on,
the
on
last.
the cliff.
So
Yeah.
let's make the distinction. Everyone wants the best outcome.
Of course.
And the difference is the way that the outcome is delivered is up for question.
I think we just have a lot of freedom.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of freedom, meaning
Freedom
like,
is a
what would-
divine principle.
Yeah, sure, I
And
get
so-
that. But freedom and
Yeah,
like,
I'm
what would
so
be the
confused.
ways?
Every human being should be free to the autonomy of their own body and how to govern their own consciousness. Every human being. Why does the government have a right to tell me what goes on in here? What I take into my body? The way I believe or think. But they do.
Right.
They've told me that, oh, you can't do that because we just deemed it illegal, but you can take this over here that we tax, regulate, and profit from.
Yeah, not
You know.
yeah. That's
Why do we have a military that is 7 times bigger and more expensive than the next person's?
Because of defense.
That's insane.
Defending
Yeah.
guilt.
I think we need a military, but does it have to be so gargantuan?
Yeah.
Think of all the money we could save and the things we could do with our
Think of-
resources.
I mean, think of cause and effect, and then you'll have your answer.
I don't know. There's just so many things we can change, but it's slow. But it
Alan for
happens.
president.
It happens.
Yeah, I mean, what would you hope to see in the world if you could play the
Do you think people would abuse
Maestro.
the freedom?
Sure, everybody does.
Which
to
is
what-
why we
to, but to
have
what
laws like this,
degree?
right?
But to
Yeah.
what degree?
And that's one of the consequences of a free society is that you have to live with people making bad choices.
But
That's
if they're
part of the
mentoring,
price
if
for
you're
freedom.
for
mentoring,
sure.
you have community. That's why there's such an emphasis on community right now. It's essential to be able to have buffers of people in your children's lives so that they can make mistakes in ways that aren't detrimental to an entire family or extended family. You know there's buffers, and then we let them out in the world. They have their hero's journey. They travel across the lands. They find a girl, or they find
I mean, look, we all know the best way to raise children is you teach them as best you can, and you let them make mistakes on their own. Because if you protect them from every mistake, they'll never learn. And we learn sometimes the best lessons in life when we screw up.
Yeah,
Yes.
fail
Even as
forward.
adults, we still
The
learn
best.
that way, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
the
oh
best.
my gosh.
Like,
I'm
why
so-
did I have to learn
Spiral
like this?
staircase.
And like still learning.
We're
this
going
way,
up the
yeah.
spiral staircase.
I feel like maybe as you get older, I mean, not that you don't still make mistakes, but I think you get smarter about like
Well, you see
figuring
what
out
matters.
which mistakes are actually the same in a different disguise, and then
True.
okay, I can avoid this.
Yeah, the other
I mean,
thing-
what is that wisdom?
It's
that's
really
experience.
important that you know that a mistake only has value to you one time.
Right.
Ooh.
The second time
Exactly.
you make that mistake, it's of no value.
Exactly.
You should have learned a lesson.
Totally.
Right.
Now you've just hurt yourself.
But you
So
have to
if you-
realize
it's
that
how you
mistakes
see it.
disguise
Yeah.
themselves
It's
in
true,
other forms
but it's how
as
you
the same
see
mistake.
it. And some mistakes are so gargantuan.
I know, but yes, it's crazy.
Like,
Yeah, I do think that education will create a less of a need for it,
correct.
a less of a need for it.
Yeah.
But then also, so we can
Being mindful. I tell
Yeah.
my children, I really hope that if every person you ever decide to make love to, that you're going to see them as a potential parent for your baby. So make sure you really like them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
Because I'll
for
be
sure.
grandma,
My
but
mom
listen, I'm
told
still
me that.
raising this
Yeah.
little one over here.
Yeah.
But just be mindful of that. Take that into consideration.
Yeah,
Is this-
regardless
is
of what
holding
you
hands
do.
enough with this person, probably for maybe a month. That's good. Keep going.
I
you
love
know.
that it's a month.
Yeah.
I've told
Oh
my
my
kids they
Why
can,
not?
they can have sex when they're about 45.
I love it. Perfect. Yeah, I like that.
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's
I told them
obvious.
it's a reasonable compromise because at the 46th year, they can also get tattoos.
That's so nice.
Oh my
So
god.
nice of you.
Shows how progressive I am.
Daddy's
So
Serious?
progressive. Oh my
When you
God.
don't know what to say, choose 45.
Well, we all know that we have no control over what the
Yeah.
fuck our kids are going to
Oh
do.
my
So
gosh.
let's
You
have
have to
awareness
trust
around
our
that.
Oh my
but
gosh.
being able to, guide them, in the, at least be like, hey, at least make it to the point where they can make their own decisions. And
Oh
at
my
least I know
gosh.
that my kids can make maybe not always good decisions, but I know they're making the decision.
Jackie,
That's important.
That's a very important point
Because
that you make.
not their friends. I already know. Nope, my kids are not. My kids are going to make their decisions. So
Yeah.
any decision they make, at least I know they made it. They weren't influenced. Not that there isn't influence,
Yeah.
but they're not making the decision based on that.
Giving your kids choices to make their own decisions primes them to
And the
be
more
able
education makes them make better decisions.
And then they watch you, of course.
because
They've
I
been
feel like
watching you
I
all
didn't
along.
get the education I needed because of the strong
The other day, yeah.
thing. So
I
it
feel
was just
you.
like all of a sudden I went into the real world and I was like, oh shit.
You got
Don't
a
fucking
strong.
know anything.
You got a strong, and I got none.
Yeah.
But we ended up with the similar outcome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so my point is, when we think about it in those terms,
Yeah.
and we can have a giggle about life and go, come on now, people, let's stop arguing about things that we don't need to be spending this much energy and frustration upon. Surely we can do better. So these are the conversations we're having, and I'm so grateful
Yeah.
that we know you, who you're a really smart man with amazing storytelling gifts, and we've had some experiences together.
Indeed.
And here we are making an impact at Culture Corner, and it's so nice for you to share your gifts with us.
Thank you.
And your time.
Thank you so
know.
much.